A.J. Brown's headed to the Patriots for 2028 first and a 2027 fifth. Some say Kevin Wildes is not here today because he was trying to help lubricate the trade, get it across the finish line. The Patriots say the wait is over with a sunglass guy emoji. Danny, is this a bigger deal for the Pats or for the Eagles?
For the Eagles. A.J. Brown is conservatively a top 10 receiver in football.
Yeah.
Conservative.
Yeah.
And you got rid of him for a first-round pick, not this upcoming year, but 2 years from now. So maybe, and you and I disagree often on how
chemistry mattering, which is an odd thing to disagree with on this show.
On the chemistry show?
Yeah.
Oh, no,
yeah.
By the way, we agree.
Yeah.
In sports television, it matters more than anything.
I think it matters in locker rooms. I think it matters in every workplace.
Yeah.
I think being happy with your coworkers and being happy going to work matters across the board.
And I, generally speaking, in pro sports, don't believe that everybody agrees on everything or gets along in every way. So I want talent, and then that's on the coaches and the leaders on my team to figure it out. The Eagles got worse, and there's a lot of reporting that has come out around Jalen Hurts to suggest that he is not on the firmest of ground long term with the Eagles. So Jalen Hurts is, in essence, playing for his long-term future as a starter for the Philadelphia Eagles without his number one receiver. I love it for the Patriots, to be clear, but who does it matter more for, Brew? I would say the Eagles, because it has ramifications on the future of their quarterback.
Yeah, look, bigger impact. I mean, there's only one. If he has a bigger impact on the Patriots, they're winning the Super Bowl. You know, and I get it if you want to say over the next 3 years maybe. But so I think he'll be a good duo with the quarterback, Drake May. But I'm kind of feeling like the Eagles, and this is independent of the trade almost, I kind of feel like it's going to be a rough year for them. You know, like I like Dallas. I've said I like them to win the division. I like the Giants, although I'm starting to feel differently about them as we see stuff coming out. But I think this could be the year, independent of this trade, that there's some struggles. And so I just think people will tie some of that to A.J. Brown, which even if it's not because of that. And so I think the Eagles are going to take a step back.
Listen, I totally understand the move for the Patriots. He's on a good contract, especially because the bonus money's been paid. He's still a highly productive player. He has a relationship with Vrabel. Drake needs a legit number one receiver. We saw the year Stephon Diggs had last year, even though Diggs is not at this point in his career a legit number one receiver. So that makes sense. They paid a lot, but they didn't pay way too much, so I think all that's fine. Here's my question for you, Danny, because I know you think Howie Roseman's sharp.
Yeah.
And he's a good GM.
Pretty universally held opinion.
Yes. And A.J. Brown is healthy, and A.J. Brown is good, and A.J. Brown's on a good contract. And cap-wise, you know, the reason they had to wait so long was so it wasn't a $60 million dead cap hit, but it's still going to be $40 million spread out over 2 years. If the chemistry thing is overrated, why do they do it? Why did the Philadelphia Eagles know there's less talent on the team now? Yeah. So why would they do it?
Just because I think chemistry is over, it doesn't mean that in this spot they didn't realize we have to do it, and this is selling high on A.J. Brown because you're not getting a first round pick.
But why do you think they felt they had to do it?
Probably because of what you've talked about and the locker room issues and all of that. I just don't believe that makes them better this year. In fact, I know that it will make them worse.
You don't know that
in terms of the talent in the locker room. They might win an extra game. But listen, and I understand the argument they had a mediocre passing game with A.J. Brown so they can have a mediocre passing game without A.J. Brown. But your depth got worse. Your reliance on Devontae Smith increased. You lose Devontae Smith, your number one receiver now is Mekhi Lemon or Hollywood Brown or Dontavian Wicks. The talent is worse.
Yeah, there is less talent. I think in pro football in particular, talent can be one of the more overrated by the media traits. And I do not think that Jalen Hurts going into this critical year, because I agree with you on that front, this critical year of his career, you could have it be another year where it was going to be an ongoing saga about whether or not A.J. Brown's happy. I was asked recently by an Eagles fan what I thought about them this year, and it's kind of a cop-out answer, but it's my honest answer. I think they have the widest variance of any team in the league. I think they could be 14-3 and have the number 1 seed, and I think they could be 7-10 and Sirianni's fired the day after the season. I think they are maybe the only team in the league that I could see finishing with the league's best record, and I could see them finishing under 500. And so we'll see whether this is addition by subtraction. I think everybody thinks this is just addition for the Rams. Yeah. The shocking move of the day, the Browns are sending 2-time Defensive Player of the Year Myles Garrett to the Rams. The package is for Jared Verse, a 2027 first, a 2028 second, a 2029 third. The Rams' only weakness last year, I would think, was their pass defense at the end of the season. You can look, this really shows it. The Rams' pass defense the defense as a whole, started the year off incredibly strong, fell off a cliff late. Sam Darnold carved them up. They now added Trent McDuffie, Jalen Watson, and Myles Garrett. We throw around S.B.O.B a lot on this show. Brew, I'll go to you. Are those the only expectations now for the Los Angeles Rams?
Absolutely.
Truly Super Bowl or bust?
Anything else is an absolute failure, period. Now, again, we're barring injury.
Yeah.
Of course, if major
Stafford
players get
hurt,
injuries, that's different. But yeah, I mean, you only do this trade and give up future assets, give up a great young player like Jared Verse to win the Super Bowl. I mean, last year they were darn near as close as you can get, in the NFC Championship game, close loss. So it's like we are here to win the Super Bowl. McVay has already won one. Once you win one, anything else is a failure, especially when your team is still good. So that is the only expectation. I get it. You said earlier, if Myles Garrett goes there and for the next 5 years is fantastic and they don't win the Super Bowl, he individually will still be great. But this type of move is absolutely Super Bowl or bust.
Yeah, they were the Super Bowl favorites who made a trade to just become slightly bigger Super Bowl favorites. So those are the expectations. How cool would it be to be a Rams fan? It's just a unique place in the football ecosystem. Like, I'm thrilled to be a Bears fan and root for Caleb. I know you've enjoyed rooting for Lamar. You're rooting for a modern NFL dynasty. None of us are turning in our fan card. But F them picks. Trade for Stafford, trade for Jalen Ramsey, do the Devontae Adams. Oh, our secondary's bad. Let's rebuild it on the fly. Trent McDuffie will give him a big contract. The Ty Simpson thing.
They're about the present.
Yeah, and the Ty Simpson trade, which I killed. I hated the logic for it because it's like, if you're all in for Stafford, you have to do things to help Stafford. Les Snead playing chess while I'm thinking about checkers because he's saying we're going to give up the future draft capital that we would use to get the Stafford replacement to get Myles Garrett, and we're going to take the draft pick that we have now from our last trade with Atlanta to take our quarterback of the future. So whether or not the Ty Simpson move works out, whether or not they win a Super Bowl here, they are just operating in a different way than the rest of the league operationally. It's really fun to watch, and yes, their expectations will be to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, this really did inform my opinion on the Ty Simpson trade.
Of course.
And I truly believe they thought they knew this was potentially in the works when they drafted Ty Simpson. It makes it make a ton more sense that they said, we are not going to be, because Stafford just signed an extension, even if they expect Stafford to play for 2 more years, they were like, we're not going to have the ability to draft his replacement anytime soon, so we'll do it now. That was one takeaway. Another takeaway was we spent a little time. We all should have spent more time in recognizing Myles Garrett was being traded when the Browns moved that money around for no reason whatsoever. It didn't give them cap flexibility. There was no logical reason to do it other than it made trading him more palatable. And then they denied it, and he has a no trade deal. That was clearly what was coming here. I also think, yes, the expectation for the Rams is clearly to make the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl. But it is not necessarily just next year. I don't think Myles Garrett might be a final piece, but I think, and we talked about this off the air more than on the air, I think most people expect Myles Garrett to be awesome for the next 4 years, the next 5. Like
you're going to hear the Reggie White comp a lot as a guy who, if you're trading this much for a defensive end who's 30 years old and will turn 31 during the season, at the end of the season, Reggie White had 5 double-digit sack seasons in his 30s. Like they're putting him in the all-time freak of nature category who they expect to be dominant for a long, long time.
And Nick, remember, with your quarterback being 38, that's what adds more urgency to it as well. If their quarterback, if Stafford was 31,
100%.
I totally agree with you, but who knows what he'll be in 2 years.
The AFC disproportionately has the best quarterbacks in the league with questionable rosters around them, or at least rosters with question marks. The NFC, overwhelmingly, their best teams are these amazing rosters with some question marks at quarterback. And then there's the Rams that have the league MVP at quarterback and maybe now the best overall roster. All right. It would take trades like that for us not to lead with this video just on a loop.
Yeah.
Spurs go on the road as underdogs and get it done. San Antonio is headed to their first finals since 2014. Wemby dropped 22-7, got the Western Conference Finals MVP along the way. Here he is after the game.
Winning the Larry O'Brien, it's a childhood dream. And having a real shot at it, having a chance, tangible chance at winning it, at realizing a dream, it's a chance. It's a lifetime chance, you never know when it's gonna happen again. But it's, the day we win it, speaking for myself, it's gonna be an amazing day.
Brew, the biggest reason the Spurs upset the Thunder?
I think they're just better. Now, slightly, the two teams are very closely matched, but I do think they're the better team. Their superstar is better. Their superstar played better. He's their top defensive players, Chet versus Wemby, advantage Spurs. The Spurs, I think they're like Dylan Harper and Stephon Castle, while not finished products, have more talent than a Caruso, a Dort. Even talent-wise, even more than a Jalen Williams, who didn't play, and A.J. Mitchell and these guys. They scored more than them, out-rebounded them in the series, shot a better percentage slightly, beat them twice on their home floor, including a Game 7, and beat them 8 out of 12 times they played this year. Like, they're better. It's just all the facts stack up to say they are the better team. Now, again, close, but they're better.
As long as we agree it's close. Like, I honestly, like, it was an 8-point game in Game 7, and yes, both teams were hurt along the way, but in Game 7, the Spurs were the significantly more healthy team, and it was still an 8-point game. So I believe that health ended up being the biggest reason why the Spurs ultimately won this. I believe that if both teams were playing with the full clip, the Thunder would have won. Obviously unanswerable, but
nobody. Here's the reason I really don't like that. Nobody's healthy ever at the end. I shouldn't say nobody. It is so incredibly rare for a team to be fully healthy at this point in the season. It's why winning championships is so special and so hard, and why the playoffs are their own thing. And the entire narrative around the Thunder is they should be the team most able to deal with injuries because of the depth. You called it their superpower all year. Their only player, like A.J. Mitchell had an awesome season. A.J. Mitchell makes what Bronny makes. I'm not.
Except he was the second leading scorer in the playoffs.
Danny, so he
does not like Bronny.
But here's the thing. Their only key guy going in, the guy that you rely on going into the year that was out, was Jalen Williams. He was out for the majority of the year. The reason A.J. Mitchell had this increased usage was because he was filling that void. So that is not, they were missing a primary creator,
And then
which
his
was
primary
two
replacement.
guys. Right, they were missing that spot.
Twice.
That should not
But you act
be.
like the Spurs weren't injured.
Yeah, I don't.
By Game 7, they were the healthy
But
team.
it may have only gotten to a Game 7 because De'Aaron Fox was out for the first 2 games. Dylan Harper was hampered for several of the games.
Well, then listen, the second piece of it, because to me, health was the biggest piece of it, but the second piece of it was the best player who was there for the Thunder may as well have not been.
The second best player.
The second best player.
Yeah.
Sorry. Other than SGA, the second best player for the Thunder, he may as well have not been there.
But why wasn't he there? It wasn't like he just didn't show up. Wemby made him not show up.
See, mentally, I agree with that, but he wasn't even guarded. They didn't even trust him to guard Wemby. Brew, he's passing up open threes. He's not even taking attempts when Wemby isn't even on the floor. And so, listen, part of that is the mental edge that Wemby has over him, no doubt. But Chet Holmgren needs to look in a mirror and figure out what he can do. Now, I'm not expecting you to outplay Wemby, but you have to have your presence. You're the second best defensive player in basketball and third team All-NBA, and he took 0 shots in the second half.
Yeah.
That was a huge piece of the reason why the Spurs upset them also.
Yeah.
If he scores 10 points.
And listen, the other piece of it is that Sam Presti's the best GM in basketball. He's the best GM in basketball. He's the best GM in basketball. R.C. Buford in the Spurs front office might be like, hey, can we have something to say about that? Because Champagny was up for the moment. Vassell was up for the moment.
Yep.
They got Champagny very similarly to how the Thunder got McCain. And actually, both were from the Sixers, by the way. Listen, you don't get credit for drafting Dylan Harper 2 and Castle 4 as much, and certainly you don't get credit for Wemby 1. I get that piece of it. Cornette was a great signing. Who was more impactful this series, Cornette or Hartenstein? It's close, in different ways. Hartenstein had his moments, also had his rough moments. Cornette, obviously, was valuable. Maybe the biggest play of the game that game. And Cason Wallace showed up. Jay Will showed up. And the guy Danny wants to talk about, he showed up as well, which was nice because he hadn't prior to that in the series. So we'll talk SGA here.
Thank you.
So SGA drops a game-high 35. It's not enough. Shai called his season a failure despite winning league MVP. This series, games 1 through 6, he was having the worst series of his career as a star. Game 7, he was excellent. Danny, what did you make of Shai's Game 7 performance?
I thought he was nothing short of spectacular. And I am just very curious. A couple of historians of the NBA, a couple of guys who have been outraged by the narrative around him.
Not the narrative.
No, the flopping, the falling, purveyors of the narrative, shapers of the narrative. He is a throwback shot maker from the mid-range. That game looked a lot like Kobe to me. Michael Jordan, turnarounds, fadeaways,
he was
footwork,
awesome.
shot making, hands in his face. I'm just wondering, is the respect level still there for you guys from Shai?
Yeah.
That game was unbelievable.
Yeah, I never lost respect for him. He's a great player. I don't like the excessive flopping and flailing and falling and all that, but I've never not respected his game, and he made some really tough shots. I will say, when you say nothing short of spectacular, I do think he fizzled a little. He had 4 points in the decisive fourth quarter. Cason Wallace carried him. He only took 1 shot in the last 4 minutes. He was exhausted. He wasn't getting help, but still, he faded a bit. But he was great. I mean, he
was spectacular.
The reason
in the
they
game
lost
7.
by any stretch.
If he had been better earlier in the series, maybe it doesn't go to 7. In my opinion, we can't spend the lead up to a playoffs and during the playoffs and into a series talking about if they make the finals, he's on this list with Bron and Jordan. If they win the championship, he's on this list with Bron and Jordan. And then in a series where they're up 3-2, where by his own account, is not playing by eye test, numbers, not narratives. His own account played very poorly by MVP standards the first 6 games. It was, going into this game, the 3rd lowest field goal percentage of any MVP in any playoff series ever. and then he has an awesome, I said that second quarter is one of the best quarters of his whole career, game in a loss, be like, that's why he's special. I don't buy. I do think he's special. I do think he is a deserving, but it's a straw man to act like we didn't say that. He's everybody
not on the Jordan Kobe level.
He's not. And by the way, it is also, this is the right result historically speaking, because it would have been odd for him to be on all those lists with Jordan and Kobe or Jordan and LeBron or whatever it was. He is a great player. That is, as I have said many times, and this is a compliment, not an insult, on the level with Dwayne Wade. And that was a great Dwayne Wade-esque playoff performance. He is not on the level of that inner circle Hall of Famer. Maybe he will be one day, but he is not yet. And one of the reasons I liked that Game 7 so much, we have 1 minute left here, I'll ask you, because you think the flopping's a false flag. You think it's mass psychosis. So do you think in Game 7, he looked, forget if the shots went in or not, did you think he acted and looked the same as he did in the previous games?
He fell less.
Yes. He fell considerably less. Yep. And there was one play that he's kind of being criticized for, the drawing the foul on the three. I think that's smart. I think if you get a guy off his feet and you want to, instead of, he could have leaned in and taken a long two. Instead, he's like, I'm going to lean to the side, get the three. That's fine. Guys have done that for a long time. But he wasn't flailing about, and he got an awesome 35, and it just wasn't enough. So, yeah, he went out on his shield in Game 7, but it wasn't enough leading up to it. And the Thunder dynasty is now just a one-off championship.
And they'll be co-favorites next year.
Well, I don't know about that.
Who do you think will be the favorite going into next year?
The Spurs.
Okay. Well, then there's not co-favorites coming up. Rams Super Bowl around with Myles Garrett. I don't know about that. And the Knicks are going to beat the Spurs.
Welcome back to First Things First. Greg Jennings hanging out. We start breaking news out of Philadelphia. Eagles trading wide receiver A.J. Brown to the Patriots for a 2028 first-round pick. So Howie Roseman does get his first rounder, but he's going to have to wait a year, and a 2027 fifth. Speculation on this deal happening, of course, has been going on for weeks, with June 1st circled on the calendar so they could spread out the cap hit. All right, let's focus in now on expectations, Greg, for the Patriots, who, of course, made it to the Super Bowl but got blown out. Do you buy the Patriots' return to a Super Bowl with A.J. Brown?
Look, it's going to be tough for them to return to the Super Bowl. Just knowing the guys that will be back in uniform in the AFC. Obviously,
listen, Super Bowl or the field, it's always smart to take the field, right? Like,
of course. But this team, I don't think that they're far off. Like, I'm not one of those that are subscribing to the idea that was a one shot, that was their chance, they can't get back there. This team can definitely represent the AFC. And this is a step in the right direction, getting more depth, a bona fide number one receiver. We kind of all knew that this was coming out and going to be the play for them. And it solidifies who they are going to be offensively. Like, they're a team that can run the ball really well already. And so anytime A.J. Brown has had extremely productive seasons, he's been on an offense where they feature the run, and you have to guard him man-to-man, and you can't really help. And he just beats you up down the field and in the intermediate. So he'll have the opportunity to do that. He'll get a bunch of targets. He'll be featured in this offense. I really like this move for young Drake May, and with some of the other additions, obviously getting Romeo Doubs. So you have depth at that position now.
So it's an arms race in the AFC, and the Patriots have the fourth best odds to win the conference behind the Ravens, Bills, and Chiefs. So they are right there. Obviously, they have to go through the Bills in their own division. My prediction, more so than they're going to go back to the Super Bowl, is going to be that A.J. Brown's going to set a career high for targets. His career high in targets is 158. It's a lot of targets. It was a couple of years ago. But it just feels to me like, give me the damn ball. Like, we've seen from so many receivers. Like, he is going to look at the difference in passing ability from Jalen Hurts to Drake May and feel like he has been just freed and unlocked in so many ways. Jalen Hurts is a great winner. and a great leader and rises to the occasion in the playoffs. But we have talked about his limitations in terms of the intermediate passing game, which is where A.J. Brown eats, and some of his ability to not get. Why isn't the passing game going? I don't think that'll be the case in New England. I think Drake May will be able to get him the ball at all three levels, and he should have a statistically satisfying season. And it's going to be interesting to see what he says about it, because he's the guy who's talked about, and I'm paraphrasing, after they won the Super Bowl, man, I thought it would be more enjoyable. Like, I like dominating that guy opposite me. It feels like A.J. Brown is going to enjoy this upcoming season. Even if they win less, he'll enjoy it more, because I think he's going to have every opportunity to fill up the stat sheet.
So I think he will have every opportunity to fill up the stat sheet. I don't think he will have his career-setting
150-plus targets.
150-plus targets. I don't. They spread the ball around. This is what this offense does. Drake May does a great job of doing that. I do believe, in terms of getting back to having contested opportunities, and we talking about the lack of separation and this and that, I think a large part of that had to do with the guy under center and Jalen Hurts not trusting, that I can throw that ball still to A.J. Brown. Now he's in a situation where I believe Drake May will make that throw because of understanding who he is and trusting that he has a big enough arm and he's accurate enough to where my player is still open because I know that individual player. Again, not trying to throw shots at Jalen Hurts, but they're just two totally different quarterbacks. So I do think the productivity will be better. But the targets, I don't see him getting 150-plus targets because you have still a lot of options on that offense.
All right, so now let's go to the other blockbuster trade from earlier today. Two-time Defensive Player of the Year Myles Garrett is a Ram. And the Browns are getting Jared Verse, a 2027 first, 2028 second, and a 2029 third. So a massive haul for the 30-year-old edge rusher. Myles Garrett, of course, had the single-season sack record this year on a Browns team that won just 5 games. And the Browns general manager Andrew Berry came out and said the decision became clear, although our emotions were muddled as we embark on a new era of Browns football with a young core and a replenished asset base. We felt this move was important to our transition. So, are you shocked that the Browns finally decided to pull the trigger and move on from Myles Garrett?
I am shocked that they did it. I think it was the best decision. I'm shocked because a lot of times when you have a franchise that hasn't had success, they hold on to what makes their fan base feel good. And that would be, in this case, Myles Garrett. And knowing he's in a position where you clearly could get a haul for him,
yep,
and you got that. And not only did you just get the haul, you got a player that is younger that is trending to be just, I don't want to say just as productive, but extremely productive.
He's
like two-time Pro Bowler,
yep,
like in his second year, Defensive Rookie of the Year in year 1, the defensive face of that team in the Rams, his first 2 years. So, like, they got a bona fide pass rusher and obviously future picks. But for the Browns, you sometimes get too tied into the emotional aspect of, well, he's the face of the franchise. This will look bad. They would think we're throwing in the towel. But to be able to get a pass rush and the haul for him, yeah, this was a good move for the Browns.
Jared Verse is great. I think from the Browns' standpoint, they get to say, we kept Myles Garrett, and he had his signature moment as a Brown. He set the all-time single-season sack record as a Brown. So when they retire his number and put him in the Ring of Honor, and he goes from Cleveland to Canton, just a few miles down the road, and he'll be a Brown for life. They'll talk about he'll retire as a Brown, all those things. When they play that highlight package, when his number goes up there, a lot of it will be from this season and the celebration of him setting the sack record. And they got a haul for him. So I think that they get to have like the feel goods for the fan and for the all-time. I mean, he's one of the 3 greatest players in the history of their franchise, 2 greatest players in the history of their franchise. And so for the fact that they had that feel-good moment and they got to kind of reset their timeline, I think it makes a ton of sense. And I've been thinking about it all day. This news broke not too long before we came on the air. If they said we need to get a young pass rusher and a ton of draft picks, this might have been the only team that
That's what I was.
Yeah, but I kept thinking about it. I was like, who else?
Nobody else.
Because Jared Verse is unique in that it's not like trading for Micah Parsons where you have to immediately turn around and pay him.
Correct.
Right. Jared Verse is cheap this year. He's cheap next year, and then you can just pay him on the option the year after that. So he is cost controlled for 3 more seasons, 2 at a very cheap rate. Now, that 2027 first-round pick, you have to slot that as like the 30th pick in the draft. You're right. They're the Super Bowl favorites. You're not expecting to get a premium thing. But if the Browns come out of this and they use a couple of those picks that they got to maneuver in next year's draft to move up and get their quarterback, they will look at this as we traded Myles Garrett for Jared Verse and the quarterback of the future.
Correct.
And then you can't say that that's not selling high on a 30-year-old pass rusher when you weren't going to win anything either way.
And knowing what they were able to do in this year's draft to kind of bolster who they are going to be
People think they're stacking good drafts.
They're definitely stacking really good drafts.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.